Picture a book, not just any book. A book so heavy it takes two people to carry it. Its pages are made of the finest paper. Its margins are gilded in gold leaf. And its illustrations, hundreds of them are painted with brushes made from a single squirrel's hair. In pigments ground from lapis lazuli, saffrons and crushed beetle shells. This book is not a religious text. It is an adventure story, a fantasy epic about hero named Hamza, with monsters and magic and battle scenes that spill across the enormous double-page spreads. This is Hamzanama, and it is one of the first great monuments of the Mughal art. Hello everyone, I am Akansha. Welcome back to Flashback Friday Season 2, presented by Art with Abir. So today, on Flashback Friday, we are going back 500 years to one of the most visually extraordinary empires the world has ever produced. The Mughals arrived in India in 1526 when Babur defeated Ibrahim Lodi at the Battle of Panipat. But the visual culture we associate with Mughal Empire really begins with his grandson, Akbar. Akbar became emperor in 1556 at the age of 13 and almost immediately established a royal atelier, the Karkhana, a studio of court painters drawn from Persia, Central Asia and across India. At its peak, this atelier employed over 100 artists working simultaneously on a single manuscript. What they created was something entirely new. Mughal painting fused Persian miniature tradition with its flat planes of colors, its jewel-like precision, with the naturalism and spatial depth of European prints that Jesuit missionaries had brought to Akbar's court. The result was visual language unlike anything that had existed before. Crowded, alive, detailed down to the individual hairs on a courtier's beard or the pattern on a carpet in the background. The Mughals were above all a court that made books, and the manuscripts they produced remain among the greatest achievements in the history of world art. One of the most ambitious projects of Akbar's atelier was the Raznama, the Book of War, a Persian translation of the Sanskrit epic, the Mahabharata, commissioned by Akbar in 1582. The project took nearly 4 years and involved translating one of the longest epic poems in human history from Sanskrit into Persian, so that Akbar, who did not read Sanskrit, could access it. But translation alone was not enough. Akbar commissioned a fully illustrated manuscript with over 169 paintings by the finest artists of his atelier, including Basavan, Daswant and Lal, bringing the epics, battles, philosophical debates and gods and heroes into vivid Mughal visual life. The Raznama is one of the great acts of cultural bridge building in Indian history. Akbar, a Muslim emperor, commissioned a Persian rendering of a Hindu epic and then had it painted in the Mughal style as a deliberate politically charged statement about what his empire stood for. Art as synthesis, the brush is a tool not just for beauty but of tolerance. Then came the official histories, the Akbarnama, written by Akbar's court historian Abul Fazl and illustrated in breathtaking detail. Battle scenes with hundreds of figures, elephant fights, royal hunt, court ceremonies, each image is a document as much as paintings, recording with extraordinary specificity what Mughal life looked like. Under Jahangir, who became emperor in 1605, the focus shifts. Jahangir was perhaps the most visually sophisticated of all the Mughal emperors, a connoisseur who could, he claimed, identify any painting's artist from a single brushstroke. Under his reign, the large manuscript gives way to the album, the Murakka, individual pages, portraits, natural history studies, calligraphy, collected and arranged with as much care as the paintings themselves. Jahangir's reign produced two of the greatest achievements in Mughal art, the portrait and natural history study. Mughal portraiture under Jahangir reaches a level of psychological intensity that has few parallels anywhere in 17th century paintings. Artists like Bichitra and Abul Hassan painted not just faces but inner states. The weight of art on ministers' features, the watchful intelligence in an ambassador size. Jahangir himself appears in extraordinary allegorical compositions, standing on a globe, embracing a Sufi saint, weighing justice on a scale, images that blend political power with spiritual aspiration and genuine artistic imagination. At the same time, Mughal artists became among the world's finest painters of the natural world. Ustad Mansoor, whom Jahangir called the Nadir al-Asr, the wonder of the age, painted birds, animals and flowers with a precision and empathy that feels almost scientific. His zebra, his turkey, his Siberian green, each one a portrait in its own right. But Mughal art is not only painting. It is stone, it is marble. It is the built world that the empire left behind. Mughal architecture is one of the great visual languages of human history, and it is inseparable from the empire's broader aesthetic projects. Akbar built Fatehpur Sikri, a new capital carved from red sandstone in the 1570s, a city that fused Hindu and Islamic architectural vocabulary in a way that reflected the emperor's own syncretic vision of India. Shah Jahan, who became emperor in 1628, was a great builder. The Red Fort, the Jama Masjid, the Taj Mahal was completed in 1653 as mausoleum for his wife Mumtaz Mahal. The Taj is built from white Makrana marble inlaid with semi-precious stones, carnelian, turquoise, jasper, lapis lazuli in a technique called pietra dura. Brought from Italy and transformed into something entirely Mughal. The Taj is not simply a building. It's a poem in marble, symmetrical, reflective, designed to change in every light, from rose at dawn to white at noon to silver in moonlight. It is perhaps the single most concentrated act of visual imagination in Indian history. The 18th century brings fragmentation, the empire weakens, and Mughal art scatters. After Aurangzeb, who ruled from 1658 to 1707 and who had little interest in paintings, the Mughal ateliers slowly dissolved. Artists trained in Mughal imperial tradition moved to regional courts, Lucknow, Hyderabad, Murshidabad, Patna, carrying the Mughal visual vocabulary with them and blending it with local traditions. This is how Mughal art survives its own empire. In the courts of the Nawabs of Awadh, it became more lyrical, more romantic, and more interested in music, poetry, and the private world of the Zenana. In Patna, it becomes more documentary, smaller in scale, more focused on everyday life and ordinary people. And then, as we saw in a previous episode, it encounters the company, the British East India Company, and transforms again, merging with European watercolor and a new colonial patronage to becoming something entirely different. In an age that often demands purity, of tradition, of origin, of identity, the Mughals' atelier is a 500-year argument for the opposite. The most beautiful things are made at the crossroads. If you would like us to go deeper into any of the aspects, the Haznama, the architecture of Shah Jahan, or the painters of Jahangir's court, let us in the comments. This was Flashback Friday with Art with Abir. See you next week, where another artwork from the past might just explain your present.